What is poppin' YouTube? We are back with our waiver wire ads for wide receivers. If you haven't checked out our video for waiver wire ads for running backs, check that out. Just drop that today as well. And if you haven't already and you like fantasy football content, subscribe. I'm trying to grow my channel and I appreciate all the help, support, and love. We are doing lives, doing start and sit lives pretty much a lot of nights of the week. We're not doing it tonight because it's Monday night and you guys already have your roster set, but we'll probably be doing that on Wednesday and Thursday of this week and Friday and Saturday. You know what it is. That's what we do. So my waiver wire number one ad this week for wide receiver is going to be Curtis Samuel. Now, there's a lot of good things that I could say about Curtis Samuel. Yes, I'm an Ohio State Buckeye fan. I'm glad to see him back out on the field. This Washington Commanders offense was kind of exciting, and it was low-key exciting because no one was actually projecting that it was going to be exciting. So I'm going to quickly let's take a look at PFF and what they had to say about the performance. Curtis Samuel played on 55 snaps, had 36 routes run, and 10 total targets. So he ran 36 routes and got targeted 10% of the time that he was out there. And he had 4 total carries. Now, the thing that's really interesting about all of that great information is that even when you then look at the snap counts, 55 snaps, 36 routes run, 10 targets, like it's exciting because you see like the mini Deebo Samuel role that Curtis Samuel had. If we look at how many fantasy points he actually produced, he only produced 11.2. Now, if I told you that amount of workload, that amount of targets, those 4 carries, you'd probably say, oh, he probably finished with like 14 or 15 points, which I think is exceptional. And that's super exciting because he has that Deebo Samuel-like ability. I know he's been injured. The last season he was injured, and then the year before that had a great year in Carolina. So why are we, as a fantasy football community, pushing down Curtis Samuel? I am not. That's why I have him as my week 1 waiver wire ad for wide receiver. I think Curtis Samuel, especially if you have the slot high upside pick that you could then throw in your flex, especially when these injuries start to happen to these wide receivers. Curtis Samuel, number 1 option for your boy. As we move into option number 2, we're going to look at Isaiah McKenzie. Now, you guys, does anyone know like what he did? Did you see what he did on Twitter where he announced the baby or his sister's? I forget how it worked exactly. Like, was it his sister's? I don't know. I don't know exactly, but anyway, Isaiah McKenzie played a really good game. Now, people had been projecting him to lead the slot carries there for the Buffalo Bills. He kind of had to split it a little bit with Jamison Crowder. Now, I'm trying to quickly, and it's not happening quickly, scroll to the PFF and go into a little bit what happened here with Isaiah McKenzie. Now, he only put up, what was it, like 9 fantasy points because he did get that touchdown, did kind of bail him out. But he's playing in a super amazing offense. Now, if we are going to, he was the 31st player overall here, and I will share my screen. So as you see me struggle, he was the 31st wide receiver overall, had 7.9 fantasy points, but I think this is standard. If I believe so. Yeah. Let me see. Oh no, yeah. This is standard. So let's say you're playing in PPR. Sorry, I'm just a mess right here on this waiver wire show, and you guys are probably like, "What the heck, Caleb? You should have been more prepared." But yeah, so he scored 9.9. I was right. I knew off the top of my head. And he announced everything. So just because he's a good family man, I have that wide receiver number 2. Now, if we want to take a look, let's take a look at PFF and the way that they have the Bills playing. Now, nothing is pulling up. Let me type in Stephon Diggs and see if that pulls up. Not do the PFF grades for this. And that would be totally embarrassing because then therefore I am, week 1 immediate takeaways. Yeah, what the heck? I guess this is just for Sunday's games. Now I can't find it. The target share. I'm just going off the top here. I'm wasting too much time. And if you've already left, that's totally acceptable too. But the thing with Isaiah McKenzie is he is the faster option out of him and Jamison Crowder. If he can get the thing, if I know they threw the pass, he missed it. Josh Allen got picked off. They came back in and he scored a touchdown. So I know there's going to be a lot of growing pains with Isaiah McKenzie. They do need Jamison Crowder, but they do need that veteran presence. But I do imagine Isaiah McKenzie is going to get a lot more run in the coming weeks. Now, he is playing on a team that has lots of options between James Cook. I jokingly said James Cook, but between, Devin Singletary, Zach Moss running the ball, you have Dawson Knox, Stephon Diggs, Gabe Davis. Like, there's a lot of target competition. Dawson Knox didn't even perform. But I am pretty confident that Isaiah McKenzie going forward is going to be a solid value. So if you really need wide receiver depth and you can't get Curtis Samuel, I would then go there for Isaiah McKenzie. My number 3 option is going to be Jahan Dotson, the rookie, the top 15 pick. Jahan Dotson came out in bold. Like I said earlier, it was kind of amazing what ended up happening with the whole Commanders offense. Carson Wentz looked like the MVP Carson Wentz of old. I might not go that far, but he was slinging the ball all over the field. And we're gonna, like I said, we're gonna just take a look. Had played 68 snaps, had 40 routes run, 5 targets, and 1 carry. If we actually go over to Fantasy Pros to then see how his day went, we will then see some really interesting numbers for Jahan. I think the thing when I was looking back at Jahan, yeah, so he was wide receiver 16, and he scored 18 PPR fantasy points. He did score that touchdown, and we're just excited for Jahan Dotson. He's a talented wide receiver, was getting raving reviews all through camp. And I will say this, I did not believe that there was going to be able to be 3 quality wide receivers in the Commanders offense between Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, and Curtis Samuel. But after watching this game, you could easily see where each of them are going to have their weeks. And imagine if something happens to one of them where they miss a game, all of a sudden the other 2 guys that are healthy that are playing are going to get boosted. This kind of reminds me, and I hate to say this, like a light. When I say light, like a light version, like how there's like a diet version of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers last offseason, where you had Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Antonio Brown. Like I said, diet version, you have Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel, and Jahan Dotson. And maybe that's a little bold, but that is kind of how I am looking here with Jahan Dotson. So if he is on your waiver wire, go check him out. He was my wide receiver 3 ad. My wide receiver 4 ad is going to be Donovan Peoples-Jones. Jacoby Brissett, we are not a fan. If you're a Browns fan, I'm so sorry. But you know what? You got bailed out. The next Evan McPherson is there for you. I forget the kicker's name, but we're doing this off the top. So my number 4 wide receiver is going to be Donovan Peoples-Jones. He put up 12 fantasy points, PPR, and we're going to have to just take a look at his total yards run, everything like that. So we had the Browns. He ran 66 snaps. So he was out there just as much as Amari Cooper. He ran actually 1 more route than Amari Cooper. So he ran 35. Amari Cooper only ran 34. And Donovan Peoples-Jones almost doubled the amount of targets that Amari Cooper had. He had 11 and Amari Cooper had 6. What is there to say? Well, the Cleveland Browns are going to have to throw the ball. As much as we hate to say it, Kareem Hunt looked good, Nick Chubb looked good, but at some point, they're going to have to do the play action, and who's going to be open down the field? Donovan Peoples-Jones. Now, we may need to see another big week of targets from Donovan Peoples-Jones, but if you remember the profile, and have studied him coming out of Michigan, even last year, he did have those big boom weeks. I can't pick him over to Dotson, McKenzie, or Samuel just because I like their profiles a little bit better and the situation that they're in. If Donovan Peoples-Jones was having Deshaun Watson throw the ball, he probably would not be on the waiver wire right now and would have been a later round pick in your fantasy football leagues. So that is my thoughts around Donovan Peoples-Jones. And my wide receiver 5 for waiver wire is going to be Devin Duvernay. Devin Duvernay, wide receiver 2 for the Baltimore Ravens. But is he really the wide receiver 2? He's really the wide receiver 3 because you got Mark Andrews as the tight end 1 / wide receiver 1, Rashard Bateman as the wide receiver 2, and then, of course, Devin Duvernay had a monster game. A monster game. Now, he was the wide receiver 9 on a fantasy points per game basis, putting himself up with 21.4. 21.4 fantasy points a game. Devin freaking Duvernay. If anyone remembers, it was last season with there were just a lot of things happening where he was really just the punt return, but he, for a lot of people, has been super scammy because he comes out of Texas, super fast kid. Everyone's like, man, him and Hollywood Brown, like if he could just get on the field, and he couldn't get on the field because I don't know, there was just other wide receivers ahead of him. And so a lot of us have just like put Devin Duvernay to die in fantasy, but this man comes back and has a resurgence week 1. So if we look at PFF, not that, and see exactly how many targets he ran. So we are looking right here. So he had played 29 snaps. So this, like I said, the Baltimore Ravens aren't throwing the ball as much. They're running the ball. Rashard Bateman had 37. Devin Duvernay had 29 snaps, had 18 routes run, and only had 4 targets. So what is there? I know he did catch those 2 touchdown passes. So a lot of his production was all on touchdowns. We do not like chasing touchdowns on this channel. We like chasing volume. So that is why I have like Donovan Peoples-Jones, even though he didn't score as many fantasy points as Devin Duvernay. That's why I have him ahead in the rankings. That's why I think Curtis Samuel, he's going to see the volume. Isaiah McKenzie's playing in a high volume offense. Jahan Dotson, same thing, playing in that high volume Commanders offense. Like That's why I'm taking those guys over Devin Duvernay. But if you are a type of man that likes to chase the upside, or female, I should say that. If you're a man, female, or whatever you would like to, we are a welcoming channel that you take Devin. Don't take Devin Duvernay, but he is my wide receiver 5 for waiver wire. So if you can't get the other guys, go get Devin Duvernay if you're really desperate. Anyway, I appreciate you guys tuning in. We are doing more of these videos. We're going to be doing a week 1 recap live show later tonight. Check out my other running back waiver wire rankings. Hopefully that helps you. We are trying to help you win all your fantasy football leagues, and I will catch